Hello, welcome and thanks for joining us today for the next webinar in our What's New series. I hope you've managed to avoid any nasty bugs going around at the moment, unlike me and a few of our colleagues. I'm still recovering, so I apologise if I sound a bit congested or if I need to pause to have a drink or clear my throat, but I'll try not to let it interrupt the flow too much. In today's webinar, we'll cover some of the newest features in Microsoft 365 that you can implement in your business, as well as covering some brand new features that are coming up in the next few months. Now, don't feel like you need to make notes or take it all in straight away, as we'll be sending out a recording of the webinar and a follow-up fact sheet later today. Also, if you have any questions, then please feel free to drop them into the Q&A box at the side at any time. I'll do my best to keep an eye out as we go along, but there will also be dedicated time at the end for some questions. Okay, so let's have a look at the agenda for today. So we'll start you off with Copilot Automatic Document Summary, moving on to improved file menu for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint web versions. Then add approvals to any SharePoint document library, copy meeting attendee and responses from Outlook, CAPTCHA verification options for Teams meetings, and there will also be a few extra features as well. And lastly, what's next? Let's start with a quick introduction. It's good to see so many people coming back and joining us today, and welcome to all of the new faces. My name is Craig Munday, and I'm the Marketing Campaign Executive at Bedroq. You might recognise my voice, although perhaps in a less congested manner, from our other videos on our website or YouTube channel. Bedroq is an IT managed service provider and Microsoft solutions partner for modern work. This means that most of the IT we implement is based on the Microsoft stack, so that's things like Microsoft 365, MS Teams, Azure, etc. We're also experts in secure, resilient networks and managed IT solutions where high performance is critical. We work with organizations that have some of the highest security requirements in the UK. We manage mission-critical IT and operational technology for those highly regulated organizations. The most important thing that we want to achieve, no matter what your organization does, is to make sure that your IT strategy is supporting your business as a whole. We do this with the help of our 8 strategic rocks that you can see here: data, skills, backup, strategy, investment, security, quality of service, and collaboration. Now, the collaboration rock is the focus of this webinar series, as most of the Microsoft 365 apps that we talk about are built specifically for that. They are collaboration tools. Now, many people we come across have invested heavily into their IT. They've bought all the apps, they've got the best Microsoft licenses, but they're just not using them to their full potential, and therefore not seeing the best return on investment either. So that's the aim of this webinar series, to keep you up to date with everything that's coming out and everything that you can start to implement that you've probably already got, and hopefully start to make a difference to your business strategy. Okay. So I'm going to start off today's webinar with a feature that can hopefully save us all a bit of time. Copilot will soon automatically summarize Word documents when you open them. As you can see from the screenshot here, it will appear at the top of the page, so it's easy to access. It'll provide a short summary of the key points and the actions to be taken from the document. And that'll look something like this. This is the expanded view, which happens when you click on the View More button that back on this slide you can see in the bottom middle of that red box. Click that and it will expand to have the full details on it. So from here, you're able to copy the summary notes into a chat or another document that you've edited, or you can even open up a chat with Copilot where you can then ask further questions as you normally would. For those of us who have to review lots of documentation, especially when the documents are pages and pages long, this could be a real time save, as at a glance you'll be able to learn necessary context, as well as all of the key points and potentially the actions that are coming from a piece of work. You can then copy these notes to help you break the white space on a follow-up document, or simply give your team a rundown of the important points that they should know, which again has the knock-on effect of saving them some time as well, as they may not need to read the full document cover to cover. Obviously, Depending on the importance of the document, you will still need to read the whole thing, but it'll give you a bit of a head start on catching up on on understanding the context, or perhaps you're running late to a meeting and you need a few ideas of what happened at the last one so that you don't get blindsided by those awkward questions. Now, if you sat there thinking that this will just get in the way, as you always need to read your documents thoroughly anyway, then don't worry, because there will be an option to hide this summary panel. Honestly, though, there weren't that many details on whether or not this will be something that you'll be able to turn off by default, but I'm sure depending on the feedback, Microsoft will probably add a toggle option to this. And of course, if I hear any more about it, I'll be sure to include it in a future webinar. I think it goes without saying that a Microsoft Copilot license is required to access this feature. This feature was due to be going live and available in the next couple of months, a couple of months ago, but it's said to be due in the next couple of weeks, so by the end of November. Up next, Microsoft is introducing an improved and more user-friendly file menu for the web versions of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. This feature is intended to make it easier to navigate some of the most used features like create, open, share, export, and manage files. I read that Microsoft had received feedback from users who were overwhelmed and confused by the file menu, finding it difficult to find and use these critical commands in the current version. Additionally, it didn't seem that it was clear if files were auto-saved when you were using the web version of these apps. So here's Microsoft's answer. As you can see from the screenshot, the file menu will be turned into a drop-down menu rather than opening a different window like it currently does. I'll just take you through some of the standout features accessible through the new drop-down menu. You'll be able to quickly navigate to the folder where the file is actually saved from that link, the blue highlighted word that says documents within that red box there. And it'll take you to the location that the file is saved. And additionally, in that same line, you can see that quite clearly that the file is auto-saved as well. You'll also be able to more efficiently find commands for downloading files such as PDFs or the other formats through the export option that's about halfway down that menu. You can use the create a copy, formerly called save as, to save a copy of the file to any online or local device. Similarly, you can use the move file command to move the file to a different folder. And towards the bottom of that menu, you'll be able to explore previous versions of the file with version history. Now, those are just the main ones that stand out, but you can also see that there's a few more options in that menu as well. Despite the web versions of these apps normally being more limited in functionality, this will be a nice quality of life change that's coming quite soon. There's nothing worse than knowing what you're wanting to do within a document, but you're not able to find the relevant section or button or menu, and this will hopefully help cut down the time spent trying to find those right options or Googling it so that you can just get on with your work. These are nothing special in terms of features. They're just what you would normally get in the file menu. So you're not missing out by using the app versions of Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. But if you happen to prefer the web versions, or it's just what's accessible to you, then this will hopefully make finding them a little bit easier. If this is well received, I could imagine Microsoft may offer the option to have File be a drop-down menu within the apps as well. Now, in addition to the new file menu, you will also be able to just more quickly edit the name of the file. Again, just to be clear, this is currently only set to come to the web versions of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. All you'll need to do to be able to edit it within the file is click in the top left-hand corner where you can see the file name within that box. It will then highlight it, and then all you have to do is type away and you can change the name as necessary. This isn't a huge change, but it can be a little bit annoying when you're using the app versions where you have to close down the file, change the name after you've found where it is on the server, and then you can open it up or send it on from there. So hopefully with this feature, it'll save a few clicks and in turn, some time as well. This feature is due to go live this month. So here's a really interesting feature that's coming to SharePoint. I'm sure many of you have been in a situation where you're trying to get the documentation signed off by one or perhaps many people. And it goes back and forth through email chains, Teams chats, maybe somehow there's a different version of the file pops up saved somewhere with changes or comments, and it just gets a bit confusing. Or perhaps you're just tired of having to repeatedly chase someone to approve the document. Well, this feature will hopefully smooth out this process as you can now add approvals to any SharePoint document library. Simply meaning that when this is enabled, there will be a new column that's added next to the document details in the library that will show the status of the approval. So you'll have the date of creation, the last edited, the size of the file, and now approval status. At a glance, you'll be able to see the sort of documents you'll be able to see and sort, the documents by approval status, as you can see in this red box here. So you'll be able to easily chase up the documents needing done and progress the work on the documents that are already approved. It's a fairly straightforward process to actually set this up, but I'll just take you through the steps to do so just now. So make your way to your SharePoint document library. Perhaps you have a dedicated area in SharePoint already for documents and files that are needing approved. Then in the bar at the top of the page, the command bar, click on Automate to open a drop-down menu. From here, click Configure Approvals. This will then open the dialog box that you see in the bottom right-hand corner here that explains that enabling approvals adds the new column that I just talked about earlier. Then it takes you through the process of being able to select the file for approval, enter necessary details, and submit the request. This in turn will generate a Teams notification to the person who needs to approve the document. The approval itself will appear within the Approvals app in Microsoft Teams, or it can be approved directly through the SharePoint library as well. It strikes me as a more concise way of handling documentation approvals rather than the back and forth scenario that I talked about earlier. But of course, there will still be the inevitable back and forth, I'm sure. But at the very least, it'll maybe keep the approval process all in one place, meaning that if you're juggling multiple documents for approval from multiple different people, then it should hopefully be easier to keep on top of. If this is a feature that you'd find useful for me to go into more detail on, then just let me know. And when the feature is fully released, I can look into taking you through a step-by-step guide on using approvals and just how the whole process actually looks for everyone involved. This feature is due anytime now, so hopefully by the end of November. Now, here's a feature that's coming to the Outlook app and Outlook on the web as well, very, very soon. So I'm sure that some of us, most of us, have days that are packed with meetings, back-to-back meetings, and I'm sure some of you may even have someone that has to book these for you. Or perhaps that's even you. You're organizing and coordinating meetings on behalf of other people or half of the organization. If that's the case, then this feature in particular might be quite useful when you're asked about who's attending the important team meeting at the end of the year or coming to the Christmas do. So it'll be particularly useful if you're hosting these large meetings and wanting to document attendances following them, or if you're wanting to follow up with, for example, a new customer with details from a meeting. So Microsoft are adding the ability to copy all attendee names as well as their response status to your clipboard, which you can then paste into your meeting notes, or if you have an Excel spreadsheet that you're using to track this information as well. You'll be able to have all of the attendees' names as well as how they responded to the meeting. So that's attending, declined, or no response. To be able to do this, all you need to do is open up the meeting invitation, go to tracking, and then from the three-dot menu in the top right corner that you can see here, you can choose to copy just the attendees' names, or you can copy all of the tracking information that's available. This will be a bit of a time-saving feature that lets you have this information in a more manageable format, so you can see who needs follow-up information, or added or removed from the next meeting, or perhaps included in the next set of emails, or even If there were actions that were missed and you realized that somebody wasn't available, you can kind of join the dots with this information side by side. It seems like a small update, but I feel like this can actually be really useful in a world that's filled with numerous back-to-back meetings that we all have to endure. This feature is due between now and the end of the year. Very soon, you will have the capability to enable verification for anonymous meeting participants via CAPTCHA. This feature will be rolling out across Microsoft Teams desktop, mobile, and web, and will provide additional security against malicious bots and third-party apps from joining your important meetings where perhaps you're sharing confidential information. This feature will be off by default, and your tenant admin will need to enable it for the organization through the Teams Admin Center. In case any of you here today are the tenant admins, this screenshot shows you where you need to go in order to enable it. So within the Teams Admin Center, go to Meetings, Meeting Policies, then find the Require Verification Check From option. And then from there, you're able to select from that drop-down menu which users you want to have to fill out a CAPTCHA to be able to access the meeting or meeting lobby. This can also be found under the meeting templates as well, which is on that left-hand side of the menu, just a few more options down. But what does this mean for you guys, for the end users? Well, I'm sure that most of you have had to click the I'm a real person or I'm not a robot box, or as you can see in these examples, go through these picture verifications where you have to pick out the traffic lights or which ones have a bus in it. And I don't know about you, but personally, I've found some of them quite tough recently. The makers are clearly having to make them harder and harder to get past the ever increasingly intelligent bots that are out there. Well, when it comes to Microsoft Teams, it looks like we'll also see the word variant of these CAPTCHAs, where the letters are simply difficult to read, in particular for robots, but actually quite difficult for humans as well sometimes. Depending on the settings that were chosen by the tenant admin, any users that join the meeting as an anonymous user will be required to pass a CAPTCHA verification before landing in the meeting. This will include the meeting lobby if that option has been enabled. This feature is designed to add an extra layer of security and deterrent to any of those malicious AI bots and third-party apps that I talked about, while not impacting the rest of the organization who would normally join these meetings. There's a new data sync solution coming to Forms Survey, which was formerly called Forms for Excel. In case you've not used these before, Forms Survey was a way of setting up a survey, and as responses were collected, you were able to visualize the data in Excel charts and keep an eye on the responses in real time. So onto the updates. Firstly, there's the name change. For whatever reason, Microsoft seemed to just enjoy doing this almost for the sake of it. So there's no real impact, but in case you can't find the option you're looking for or hear someone talking about it differently and not calling it Forms for Excel, but Forms Survey, then this might be why. And secondly, the way that the form data is synced with Excel is the main update here. So before this rollout, forms created from OneDrive and SharePoint Online, they used to use the old data sync solution, which meant that the Excel file was created automatically. So the old sync method, this meant that the file was created automatically once you'd set up the forms to be sent out, and then the forms data was then pushed to Excel through Graph API. But now with this rollout, forms created from OneDrive and SharePoint Online will use the new data sync solution, which again, this means that the Excel file will not be created automatically. So the user can create the Excel file from the forms result page after the responses have been received. So to create a new form, it is much the same process as it was before. From SharePoint and OneDrive Online, select the new drop-down menu, then click Forms Survey. From there, you can set up your forms with your questions and your survey questions and hoping to get the answers you're looking for, send it out. And then once you get your responses coming in, you can click Open Results in Excel. You can see that on the right-hand side of the screen here. This button is available on the results page. And what this will do is sync the data into an Excel spreadsheet. This new Excel spreadsheet with the response data will be created within the folder where the form was created. Note that if you've synced the data from Excel, then you receive more responses, you have to go back into Excel for the web in order to sync the new data into Excel desktop app. So in order to do this, you need to open the file for the web, wait for the desktop app file to sync, and then you can access it through the app. Overall, the only main advantage that I can really see with this update is that you have control as to when to create the file within the responses. It then, however, seems to become a bit more of a hassle if you were to get responses after you've synced the file. So I suppose this update is more of giving you a heads up of how it's going to work in the future, rather than some of the features I normally talk about that will improve your work life and save you time. This update is set to be due anytime now. You may even already have access to it. All right, back to the quality of life stuff. So here's a small one that might save you a little bit of time. In Outlook, you are now able to drag and drop an email onto the calendar icon on the left. When you do this, it will automatically create a new event or appointment, however you want to call it, the name of which will be automatically filled in as the subject line from the email chain. A new window will pop out where you can then turn the appointment into a meeting or set the status in your diary. As well as that, you're able to invite the necessary people that you wish to the diary reminder or the meeting itself. The interesting part here is that it will put the entire email chain in the main body of the event, providing all context and necessary information that you could refer to during your booked appointment time, or for those invited to the meeting to get up to speed about the reasons for the meeting. Perhaps the email chain that you're including had an agenda or actions collected nicely in it already, or even just some information from external contacts. So rather than forwarding this email on to everyone, then it's already contained within the appointment, and people will get the context when they receive the invitation and be able to read it in their own time. When I was playing around with it, though, it didn't seem to include any attachments from the email. So you still need to do that manually, or save it somewhere on the file and include a link to it, which is a bit of a pain, but nevertheless, it could be a bit of a quick way to get the important parts of the email chain included when you're needing to set up a meeting on the back of receiving some information through an email, or just as a reminder to yourself in the future, so you don't have to go back through your inbox to find that email. And as I was playing around with it, this feature is available now. Okay, that is all the content for today. I just wanted to quickly let you know about the next webinar in this series that will be coming next month. So that will be taking place on Thursday, the 5th of December, and you can register for that now on our website or through the link that my colleague will post into the chat just now. We look forward to seeing you there, and if there are any topics or questions you wish for me to cover in the next webinar, then please just get in touch with me and I'll be happy to have a look. And also, hopefully, I'll be feeling a bit better, so I won't keep struggling to speak. That should be the link published in the chat now. So if you want to make sure that the event's in your diary, then please go ahead and register just now. Remember that all of these webinars are recorded and accessible through our YouTube channel and website. So please make sure to have a look through them if you're interested in learning a little bit more. I'll now just quickly take you through our stakeholder workshop that Bedroq run, called the 8 Rocks Assessment. It goes back to those 8 rocks that I talked through right at the beginning of the webinar. This is a stakeholder workshop designed to get consensus on your business priorities, and it can be conducted face-to-face or virtually, and it gets leaders and investors aligned behind the best ways to fully assess your IT strategy. It's important to note here that there's no cost implications with this other than a mutual investment of time. So, if you're an IT leader at your organization and you need a bit of backup to prove to the CFO that you need to make an investment into your IT, or if you're simply looking at ways that you can better use your existing IT investments, well, we're happy to look at all of these things. So let us know if it's something that might be of interest to you, and we'll be happy to set this up and introduce you to the team that will walk you through this process. Okay, so we have a few minutes left, so it's time for some Q&A. If you have any more questions, then please just pop them into the Q&A box just now. I'll just have a drink and also see if there's any questions that have come through. Okay, so thankfully for my voices and my throat's sake, there doesn't seem to be any questions for today. So if any questions come to you, perhaps while you're looking through the fact sheet that I'll be sending out later today, then just feel free to reply to that email. That'll be coming this afternoon. There will also be the recording attached with that. So I'll be happy to help with any queries about the content that I've covered in this webinar or anything else, and we'll look to cover your suggestions in the future as well. So again, thank you very much for joining us today, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. I look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Goodbye.